Imagine standing at the edge of the world, surrounded by a landscape so desolate, so hauntingly barren, that it seems as though life itself has been erased from Earth. This landscape is amazing, and it has a story to tell. But would you listen? It may seem like just ancient lava flow underneath your tires, but there's a lot more here if you're willing to look for it. This is the Craters of the Moon Preserve. So we hadn't planned on it, but this trip that we were going to take through the Craters of the Moon Preserve was going to be totally different from anything else we've ever done. We had spent the first half of our day exploring the Craters of the Moon National Monument, but to really experience it, we wanted to get into the preserve. If you look at the map here, it's hard to tell, but the preserve is really, really, really big. And by big, it is 750,000 acres in size. And just the lava field spreads over 618 square miles. And between the monument and the preserve, they have over 25 volcanic cones, which are pretty much mostly splatter cones. And there are a total of 60 distinct lava flows that have come from this area that range between 15,000 to 2,000 years old. Sounds like a pretty cool place to visit, right? Well, we really wanted to experience it, so we decided that we were going to go back to where we were staying through the preserve. So I had been planning this trip for months, and I knew that there were some really cool features that were found in the preserve that we wanted to see. So following some different travel vlogs and different off-roading vlogs for people who have done the preserve area before, I was feeling rather confident that we were going to have a good time. So if we take a look at the map here really quick, you can see as green line is kind of what my initial plan was, and we end up following it for the most part, for better or for worse. But more on that later. So we are on a road that goes through Craters of the Moon Preserve. So we just finished up hiking in the park itself, and so now we're going to do the optional four-wheel drive area through the preserve to go back to Pocatello. It's supposed to be pretty easy. There was a sign that said high clearance four-wheel drive recommended. We will let you know if it's just washboardy or whatnot. But so far it's been pretty smooth. We're just starting it though, so we will hold our judgment. As you can see here is that this road is pretty well maintained from the very beginning, right after you get off the highway. It was a little bumpy, but nothing too serious, and we were pretty excited about getting to go see some of these geologic features. Now, I want to let you guys know that for once in our life, we are actually not off-roading alone. We were taking on family vacation, so we actually have two trucks with us, and so we have a 2014 Toyota Tacoma behind us, and it is driven by Dane's father. And you will see that truck here later in the video. So as you can see that these lava flows that are present back here are so impressive. And so far the road has been pretty much skirting around them for the most part. But it was really cool to actually see them and get to see the different types of lava from the different splatter cones. Now, let's get into some of the other things that aren't so obvious about this area. You wouldn't know it, but this area is full of wildlife. I know, really, it's surprising, right? From this desolate lava field, there are so many creatures that live in here. In fact, we saw so many while we were four-wheeling back here. And one of the unique things we found is that a lot of the creatures that live in this area have adapted to their environment. Unlike others in their species, they tend to be darker colored to match the environment. Just like these antelope here, they are definitely darker than the ones we have in Colorado. And later on, we actually even see black mice and really, really dark elk. So after visiting Snowdrift Crater, the roads started to disappear. And yes, they're completely on the map, but they are very, very overgrown because I'm guessing people come and see this crater and then they go back out the way they came. But we're the adventurous type and we are not going to turn around. We decided we were going to go forward and see where the trip led us. I would say, like, if you're going to explore Craters of the Moon Preserve, is be very good at navigating overgrown roads. Every road we've gone on has been pretty overgrown after the Snowdrift crater. Some of it is pretty, the weeds are pretty high. But now we're back on more of a main-ish road. We're going to keep working our way down, but so far it's been kind of cool. You get to see areas that you normally don't get to see. And so, yeah, I think we've been enjoying it so far, even though we had to pick our way and go, well, that road doesn't exist anymore, so we had to find some other ones, so. And we had a lot of roads that were supposed to exist that are pretty much just not there anymore. Now this is one of the better ones you're seeing here. This has still got a few little tire tracks you can follow here and there, but it is pretty much getting overgrown. I'm guessing because this area is so big that a lot of people don't adventure back this far. And honestly, at this point in our journey, we started to really get the visual of how the pioneers must have felt when they saw this landscape. And by pioneers, of course, I'm talking about the famous Oregon Trail. So let's dive into some history here because I really feel like it really explains this area. In 1864, a pioneer named Julius Caesar Morel described this very place as a mass of black vomit, a landscape so harsh it seemed to defy life itself. I personally think this landscape is beautiful and not vomit. But beyond the stark beauty of this volcanic wilderness lies a story of hardship, hope, and the indomitable spirit of the pioneers who dared to cross it. Now, for clarity's sake, the pioneers didn't cross the preserve itself, they actually went up in the actual craters of the moon area, which is to the north of this location. But everything here looks so similar, I really feel that you can experience almost the Oregon Trail as you four-wheel. So the one that goes to Craters of the Moon is actually a cutoff and is considered a safer alternative to the actual Oregon Trail itself. The Oregon Trail, of course, followed the Snake River about 100 miles south of where we're at. In 1852, John Jeffrey began promoting a spur trail which traced traditional Shoshone migration routes. Of course, he had an ulterior motive and he wanted to generate business for his ferry that was at the mouth of the Blackfoot River. Although the cutoff received some use between 1852 and 1854, it wasn't till later in the decade that a large percentage of Oregon Trail traffic crossed this route. In 1862, an immigrant party asked guide Tim Goodall to lead them to the west of Fort Hall on the cutoff pioneered by Jeffrey. They hoped the alternative trail would enable them to reach the Salmon River goldfields more directly. Well, aren't we lucky that Goodall succeeded in leading a group of 1,095 people, 338 wagons, and 2,900 head of stock safely from Fort Hall to Boise. It was an enormous wagon train, the largest to travel any section of the Oregon Trail, and it took them over 3 hours to get in and out of camp. By 1862, the native tribes were starting to get a little bit more resistant towards people going into their homeland. Scrimmages occurred often between the Shoshone and the pioneers. This is actually at Mascaraque State Park. The growing hostility along the original trail demanded an increase for a safe alternative. By 1863, 7 out of every 10 wagons en route from Fort Hall to Boise took the cutoff instead of the main trail. But now our adventure was starting to get a little bit more fun. As one can imagine that with those wagons going through a lava field, it was probably pretty slow progress. As you can tell from us, because we're going not too fast through here because you don't want to cut your tire, you don't have any issues out here. And honestly, I'm so glad that we have a modern automobile and not in a covered wagon. Having to walk through all of this next to the wagon would be atrocious. lost and wondering if we were ever going to find our way out of here, we finally met up with the trail that goes through the lava field itself. And so that has been a kick in the pants so far. It's been nice. Bumpy, but nothing too extreme. And so it's been kind of a nice little happiness over the top of, I can't believe the roads don't exist. So far so good. So we're gonna keep winding our way towards Pocatello. At this point, we were wondering if we were going to make it back to Pocatello that night. So if you're going to travel in this area, we highly recommend it for overlanding. Bring all the stuff with you and enjoy the experience. As we left the lava field behind us, the sky in front of us started to develop a storm. With it getting darker and darker, we were worried we weren't going to get out of here by nightfall. And just when you start to get anxious, God reminds you to just be thankful for where you are. They're running up the side of the hill. I know they're hard to see, but I had to include them because we saw a massive herd of elk. And they are darker than the elk in Colorado. Everything here has adapted to this lava-filled environment. And honestly, if we hadn't gotten lost and hadn't been back there at that time, we would have never have seen this. And so I am so thankful for our misadventure. And then it finally happened.
The most wonderful thing we'd ever seen.
In case you're wondering, this is the most beautiful sight of the day. It's a road. We finally made it to a Mainer road. So we're pretty excited by that. There's so many roads in here, you could get lost. So if you're gonna explore this area, I highly recommend bringing something like Gaia for you to at least be able to see where they go. Because some of the roads exist, some of them don't. But right now we're excited because we're on a more main path. It's still kind of trailish, but it is definitely going in the right direction towards town. And yay! Super excited. The Craters of the Moon Preserve is a place of stark contrasts, beauty and brutality, history and hardship. As we reach the end of our journey today, let us not forget about the pioneers who walked this land before us. Their legacy is etched into every rock, and this landscape stands as a silent testament to the resilience of the human spirit. So next time you find yourself driving through southern Idaho, take a moment to look beyond the road. You just might catch a glimpse of the hidden past, hidden in the shadows of the lava.